We've already covered the history of the name Intrepid in the Legacy series, and as shown it became the name of several classes of starship. One such vessel was the famous USS Voyager NCC 74656. The historic odyssey across the Delta Quadrant changed many species and altered the course of entire powers, so is no doubt the most well-known ship to bear the name Voyager in Starfleet. But what of the others that shared its heraldry? Well, it seems there are few vessels with the title. In 1917 there was a small USS Voyager SP-361 that operated throughout the Great Lakes until being transferred to the US Coast Guard in 1919, where she eventually lost her name and faded from the records. The Royal Australian Navy vessel, the HMAS Voyager D-31, was a W-class destroyer, which itself was similar to the V-class and developed by the Royal Navy and deployed in 1918 under the command of the British. In 1933, she was reassigned to the RAN along with 4 other ships. She saw her final days in World War II when she was run aground and hit by planes in 1942. A second HMAS Voyager, the D-04, was one of the prestigious Daring-class destroyers and assigned to the Royal Australian Navy. Much as their British counterparts, which all had names beginning with the letter D, the RAN vessels all alliterated with the letter V, the HMAS Vampire, Vendetta and Voyager. This vessel served an unfortunate fate, however, as it saw several refits and overhauls in its first 2 years from 1957, and in 1960 she began her operations in earnest but needed further repairs. Most of her missions were training or demonstration based until in early 1964 when she was tragically cleaved in two by the HMAS Melbourne during manoeuvres exercises. The impact resulted in 82 people losing their lives. A more upbeat and relevant legacy of Star Trek's exploratory ship can be found in our history of space exploration. In 1977, NASA's Voyager program was almost complete. The aim was to take advantage of the alignment of the planets to explore the outermost limits of the solar system. Using gravity-assisted slingshots, Voyager 2 was launched, followed by Voyager 1. The importance of these missions cannot be understated and include a whole host of discoveries about our outer planets, including the discovery of the first active volcanoes beyond Earth on Io, a nitrogen atmosphere on Titan, and the moons around Uranus and Neptune. In February 1990, Voyager 1, at 4 billion miles from Earth, takes a picture of its starting point, the pale blue dot. In 2012, Voyager 1 becomes the first human-made object to enter interstellar space, passing beyond the protective Helios sheath of our Sun and facing the full intensity of cosmic rays. In 2018, Voyager 2 followed suit and almost 42 years later is still transmitting. Neither probe is yet to reach the outer limits of the Sun's pull, however, which is generally considered to be the Oort cloud, at around 29 light days away. They still have some distance to travel. In Trek, however, there were more Voyager space probes, with another being launched in the late 20th century, although the exact date is unknown, speculated to be around 1999, though Decker's estimates put it at before even the original Voyager program, so shut up Decker. This probe disappeared into a rift of some description, initially presumed to be a black hole, but re-emerged across the galaxy where a race of machines repaired the probe as best they could and sent it on a return course to Earth. It is often speculated that this race may have been the precursors to the Borg, or that the probe, now designated Voyager after gaining sentience, in fact created the Borg in some capacity, but that's a subject for another day. The probe, now sentient and growing in mass and power, continued to learn and hoard data on everything it encountered until it crossed into the range of the Klingon Empire, where it continued implacably and inexorably towards Earth, where it sought to transfer its findings to its creators, as per its original mission parameters. Having evolved beyond the powers that made it, however, it refused to believe that it was the product of organics. Disaster was averted when it joined with a human life in order to further develop and left to continue its mission of exploration into other realms as a new being. Try as I might, I could not locate any references to any other Starfleet vessels named Voyager, with the closest being a proposed name for the Virgin Galactic VSS Unity. In a similarly epic pan-galactic journey to Voyager's, the USS Voyager NCC 74656 was an Intrepid-class starship launched in 2371 and brought unwillingly to the Delta Quadrant by a being known as the Caretaker. It was fortunate that it was such a vessel that was snared by the Caretaker, as the Intrepid class could sustain high warp flight for longer than many other Federation vessels, thanks to its streamlined subspace profile, and while it lacked many of the luxuries of other Federation ships, it was a designated deep space explorer and a testbed for a number of new technologies. Because of this, it was able to survive the 70,000 light-year trip back to Sol, even if it did take numerous shortcuts and exploits to cut down its journey by a factor of 10. The USS Voyager impacted many of the species it encountered. Sometimes its mere presence upset the balance of power in numerous systems, and it was even brought back home through temporal interference on the part of a future Catherine Janeway. Off topic a bit here, but it's been asked why this was allowed to occur by temporal agencies and the like, and I think the answer is rather simple. Because look how much impact the starship had on the Delta Quadrant. Is the damage done by this 7-year trip worth undoing if it means that the starship would go on to impact dozens if not hundreds of species in the Delta Quadrant by continuing its Voyager warp? Plus, during its return, it crippled the Borg, so perhaps this instance of temporal tampering was universally agreed to be one best left unresolved to prevent a worse outcome. Hypocritical? Maybe, but maybe also for the best. Anyway, the USS Voyager made it home in 2377 to a Federation repairing itself after the Dominion, a war that the Intrepid vessel had missed. It's often cited in post-2377 stories that one of the first things done was the instigation of Project Full Circle, where the USS Voyager was stripped of all the knowledge and advancements made during its journey, of which there are numerous, so that they could be studied and replicated for Federation use. According to Star Trek Online, the USS Voyager ended up as the flagship of Admiral Tuvok and continues to serve in missions exploring the Delta Quadrant as of 2410. Its long lifespan of 39 years could be attributed to the advancements made by the vessel and its status as an iconic Federation ship, as well as a nice parallel with the operational life of the space probes, which continue to function 4 decades after their launch. The similarities with Voyager pretty much begin and end with the Voyager space program. In universe, the only real parallels are the interstellar journeys of Voyager 6, renamed Voyager, and the USS Voyager. Of course, the name itself implies an Odyssey-level journey, and in all cases of space vehicles, the level of exploration undertaken has been suitably epic. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Legacy series. This is one that I initially expected a lot of information on, and was surprised to find very little outside of established canon. Unusual for this series, but not unwelcome. So, thanks again for watching, and until the next video, I've been Rick. Thanks again, and goodbye.